Welcome to the Martin Bailey Photography Podcast. It's January 24, 2025, and this is episode 845. I'm just back from the Hokkaido Winter Landscape Adventure, and during the trip I had the pleasure of sitting down with a digital recorder to record a conversation with myself and my old friend David Lee. We go into all details about our friendship and what David's up to in the conversation, so let's jump straight in. I hope you enjoy this conversation with David Lee. I am delighted to be sitting here today with my friend David Lee, and you'll learn quickly, very soon, who David is. But we're essentially sitting in a room in a hotel overlooking the harbor in Wakkanai, in the northernmost city in Japan. And I am going to welcome David to the show. So welcome.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you for having me. I've been listening, as you know, since a year or two after you started your podcast. I probably found you in your forums along with your other listeners and maybe emailed you and said, if you go out shooting again, I would love to join. And that was because I found your photography and the podcast pretty inspiring and magical, because it was also that Japan focus and also similar interest in Japanese maples, nature, green leaves, the landscape photography in general, and listening to your well thought out summaries of your own images, summaries and criticisms and things you liked, and the stories of the person who walked in the middle and otherwise you would have had the perfect shot, and those things were really inspirational. And so you encouraged me to get back into photography during that time, and I spent a lot of time doing photography while I was in Japan because of that. And I had done on and off throughout my life, but that was a big impression on my life at that time. So
you told me a few days ago that you actually you received tuition on photography at high school.
I received some awards, and I had a great photography teacher, Bob Runyon, if you don't mind me mentioning his name. He passed away a few years ago. He actually knew Art Wolf, and I think saw Art Wolf as a rival. And but he was a great landscape nature photographer, and after he taught, I think right after I graduated high school, he quit teaching and went full-time to sell his work, and was really successful in the Pacific Northwest. And
well, you showed me a few pieces of his work, and it was absolutely stunning. So and that wasn't even his landscape stuff. So
yep, and my two best teachers are Bob Runyon and Martin Bailey. So,
well, that's an honor, an absolute honor.
Yes, so thank you for that.
Not at all. Yeah. Do you remember when the first time we met? Was it like 2008, 9, or around there?
I think it was earlier. I moved to Japan right at the start of 2001.
Yeah.
When did you start the podcast?
2005.
And you started full-time photography?
2010. And you came on the first winter wildlife trip.
Okay.
When it became just wildlife.
Yeah.
And that was 2010, yeah?
And we had met at Jindaiji Gardens
before
once
that.
Or twice.
So that was probably around 2008 or some. I think I'd tell you what I could do. I could look at the
14 millimeter
the hexamillimeter, the millimeters, the first 14 millimeter focal length image, because that was your lens.
That's right.
That I loaned from you when we shot together in Jindai Botanical Gardens.
Yep, I remember. I was pretty excited.
Yeah, and I can remember calling in to Map Camera on the same drive home and buying my own, because I was blown away by that lens. So thanks for helping me to spend a few $1,000s there.
Yeah, you've done the same. Listening to your podcast has certainly influenced my savings account.
Absolutely. And that, I mean, so that was probably, so now we're in 2025. It's January 13. It was 17 or more years ago, probably. So I think that classes you as an old friend. And I been really looking forward to this. I was hoping we'd get a few hours downtime so that we could talk, because we'll talk a little bit about your background first, but you've now gotten into storm chasing, and we're going to talk about that as well. So, before we do that, what brought you to Japan? You know, like to as much as a degree as you want to talk about.
Well, I studied international studies, but I also studied tech, and ended up working in big tech in the 90s, right out of college. And I always wanted to live overseas, so I got some opportunity to transfer to Singapore, lived there for a couple of years, and then the opportunity came to move up to Tokyo, and I came here not really knowing what to expect. It's not necessarily an easy place to move to, but I immediately fell in love with the country, and especially in terms of photography. Like I said last night at dinner, I was always finding magical places in Japan that you don't necessarily find when you're in your old neighborhood at home. And right after I moved here, there's a lot to do. You spend the first month adjusting, finding a place to live, and I found myself right away attracted to things like temples and shrines and urban life in
the
Tokyo.
Typical Japanese stuff.
Yeah, and I was really into bokeh at that time, and taking a lot of wide open shots with blurry backgrounds, and all over Tokyo I found stuff to shoot every day. So I pretty much had my camera the whole decade I lived here.
Yeah, wow. So we're talking about bokeh. The first image that I pretty much consciously copied from someone was you did a beautiful shot of the cherry blossom blooming on the Nagawa River. And I was blown away by that shot. Beautiful. And they got the guy with the loudspeaker thing, what do they call them? Not loudspeakers.
Megaphones.
Megaphone. Yeah. And I went there with my wife a few years later and shot that. And it was just a beautiful place. So if anyone can remember my shot, at the time as well, but I give full credit to David, because it was a beautiful photograph.
The cherry blossom light up is, I think, something unique to Japan, at least from my experience, and that's just a beautiful place. So.
Absolutely. So from then, I actually, and I made you laugh a few nights ago about this, but I actually moved in part to Chofu because you lived there, and we were meeting in the Chofu Jindai Park, and then I sort of, we needed to get out of Tokyo, so it was 99% that, but there was a smaller part of me thinking, we're going to live close to David, and then I moved and contacted you. You said, we're just going back to the US.
Yeah, so that wasn't by choice, but no. I was transferred out of Japan at that time, but I think the correct characterization is I was babbling so much about Jindaiji Gardens that you started going there, and that's where we met up a couple times, and it's probably Jindaiji Gardens that attracted you.
Yeah, well, we'd been going there for a while, but the common interest was certainly a part of it. Yeah. And then, going up there and using your 14mm, getting to meet you, all good stuff.
Those maple trees were something else. Right?
Yeah. So we spent 10 years there, 14 years there, until last year. Now we've moved, we're over in Gunma. You know Gunma pretty well because you were travelling through to your in-laws' house.
Yep, all the way.
Yeah. So now we find ourselves in this hotel room in the northernmost city of Japan, Wakkanai. We've been out shooting for the last week. We've just passed the midway. We're on the 7th day now, I think, of a 12-day tour. How have you found the tour so far?
First thing is, the tour has been great, and the first pleasant surprise was the group is just everybody in the group we're with is so easy to get along with, and delightful to be around.
Yeah, they've been great, every one of them, yourself included, of course.
And the photography has been amazing. I mean, those first 5 days were just a whirlwind tour, right?
Yeah.
We had one stop after the other. We had a lot of really good luck, and we went back to a few places and caught great light, but totally different light. Yeah. And it was great. The highlight for me, I think, so far is the gate, the Shinto gate. Yeah. I'm not going to mispronounce it again. Torii.
Yeah, Torii. Yeah.
And The Shinto Gate on the water is just amazing, and I think that's one of the best reasons to come here to Hokkaido if you're a photographer.
Yeah, I love that place, and we didn't get a really good sky until we went back on the morning. Just for people so that they know, we actually lost one day through bad weather and that was coming up. That was the fifth day, I guess. But that's why we spend 2 days in most locations, 3 in others. But we made it up because we still got everything. It's insurance time that I'm building in.
And somehow we got ahead of schedule, right?
Yeah, yesterday we had such good weather, which essentially means bad weather, nasty grey skies, that we pretty much shot everything that I tried to shoot by the end of our second day up here, and we pretty much had got it done by yesterday lunchtime. Today, though, we've been off to the Cape Sawyer. Again, the skies weren't what I wanted. They were a little bit too blue, and blue skies to me are a big put-off. But the group still got out and picked up on loads of things. So it's great to see everyone enthusiastic, and I'm looking forward to the second.
Well, and I think that's a benefit of your tour as well, is people can they don't line up in the same spot all together for 2 hours at a time and listening to you. You tell them what settings to use. People are able to walk around and do their own creative things. Some people don't really want to stand next to other photographers when they're shooting, and this is a good tour for people who either want instruction or want to have some creative freedom to do whatever they want. It's been enjoyable, and I think for me that helps because I listen to you when you're giving advice, and then I turn around and see something that might be in the other direction, and I can find my own subject matter. So it's been great.
So let's move on to your storm chasing, and it's a subject that fascinates me. So I've been looking forward to talking more about it. First of all, what got you into it?
I've been a lifelong weather geek. So in that area, I grew up in Seattle, Washington, in the USA. We'd get snow every couple of years, and when snow happened, school would be canceled. And so I had this excitement for weather. And there's a lot of us out there. It's not unique to me. There's a community in the Pacific Northwest that is excited about weather, and we're checking computer models all the time. And so I kind of grew up with that. I studied some physical geography and other meteorology and even some computer modeling, weather forecast models. But I've also been, as you know, pretty much a lifelong photographer. When I was a child, that's what I wanted to be. But I ended up working in tech for 30 years, and now I'm on a career break and enjoying myself. And I've been doing a lot of photography in mountains and nature near where I live, and I took the opportunity, without having a job to worry about for now, of traveling and chasing storms. And to do that safely, when you're talking about severe thunderstorms and tornadoes, anyone who's interested in that should go online. There's a number of really good resources that actually provide training for storm chasers, and you can pass some tests which enable you to do some things and help track other people.
Wow.
But it's important to first start there because thunderstorms and lightning are very cool, but they're also very dangerous, and tornadoes kill people all the time. And so I looked at that, and I felt comfortable that I had enough knowledge to safely go and do. So I started out with thunderstorms in the Washington, Oregon part of the United States, and then I went down to Texas for the eclipse that happened last spring in 2024, and some tornadoes were in the area the next day, and so I went. Unfortunately, the locations weren't that great, and it was just everything was washed away in rain, so we couldn't see the tornadoes, but they were happening nearby. So I came back, went home, and a few weeks later in May there was a larger tornado tornado producing weather pattern happening. So I came down with my wife to Texas and Oklahoma, and on my second chase I ended up, I think it was May 23rd in eastern Oklahoma, I ended up seeing a great tornado. They call it. It was rather stationary in the beginning, and then it developed the shape of a stovepipe. And it lasted for about 20 minutes, which is kind of unusual. and I got some video, and that's kind of the humorous story I was explaining to you. So I've been looking at Stormchaser video of tornadoes and photography for a long time, and there's a lot of beautiful work out there. It's a very developed and mature community with all sorts of people, men and women, and I always thought with my photography skills I could show these people how it's done. Well, it turns out we knew for a while this tornado was about to spawn and touch down, and I was standing there watching the rotation, and when it actually started to happen, all I could think of was don't die, don't die, don't die. And the video I have is 60-mile-an-hour inflow winds with my handheld camcorder is very shaky. And I was like trying to decide, I kept going like back and forth to my rental car, trying to decide to leave or watch, and then I did not use a tripod because I needed to be ready to go at any moment. And so I did a lot of handheld shots, but what I realized was even with my 24 millimeter lens, I was too close, and everything was much bigger and faster than I expected.
Wow.
So we were never in danger. My wife was like taking selfies with cows while the tornado was touching down. We were comfortable, but I was definitely, my mouth went dry, my heart was pounding, and I made a few friends who were nearby who also chasing in the area. And we were all really excited. And then when it was clear things were going to come in our direction, we pulled out and watched the tornado from a distance. But even from that distance, we were too close. So I learned a lot of lessons. When you're shooting storms, you need a very wide angle lens. And the best photography that I've seen and that I've managed to capture myself comes from people who are a good bit of distance away, where you could capture the whole wall cloud or the whole supercell or the whole storm cloud. And with a little tornado, in the ground. And if you can get good light, and part of the training you learn is there can be good sides of a storm to be on, like the south or the east of the cell, and sometimes you get the best light there too. Not only is it more safe, but you have better visibility. So went through all that. It was a great experience, and I had a funny experience where that first tornado that was touching down, I captured cows making love with a tornado behind them, and it ended up going a little bit viral on Twitter for a couple of weeks, which was kind of funny. So that was a memorable experience, and I really enjoyed it. My wife and I was with my wife, so that was fun. So I went down and did some more a couple of weeks later, and then I drove on a solo camping trip to Montana and ended up capturing. I was kind of in a race for my life against this giant storm cell, and it was 2 storm cells that merged together, actually 3, but which means they're less likely to produce tornadoes, but they were basically right over my head, moving at like 60 miles an hour.
Wow.
And so I was driving away from them with action cams pointed at the sides of them, capturing video as I drove for like 3 hours ahead of these storms, and that video ended up being very popular on YouTube too.
Oh wow.
And but it was just beautiful stuff, and the experience I really enjoyed. And then as summer went through, the season kind of dies down, but through that I've made new friends in the Stormchaser community around the US and particularly in the Pacific Northwest on this landscape tour that we're on now that's so wonderful. I've been sending pictures and updates to my Pacific Northwest weather geek friends who are very impressed by the tour and the places we're staying and all the images they've seen so far. And there is a commonality between photographers and storm chasers, and I think most storm chasers are also pretty good photographers, and I think a lot of photographers, landscape photographers, like nature and therefore also enjoy things like giant dramatic storm clouds, right? So,
absolutely. Those supercells are absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
But I mean, like I said, I think it was last night over dinner, why would you be a storm chaser if you don't want to photograph it?
Absolutely. It's a
to
great
me,
point.
it seems like the main reason would be capturing it. And I mean, it may be, the main reason may be having viral stuff on YouTube and earning income. And that's definitely something that some people are doing. But yeah, it's a fascinating area of photography and not just area of photography, but to me, thinking of it from my own perspective, I love the images that come out. We don't have any images right now to look at, but what I will do is I will include maybe some links to videos that you've done. The one with the the cows
Yeah.
doing their thing.
Not for children.
Yeah. But we'll link to that in the. I don't know what the episode number will be for this yet, so I'll make sure that I say that in an introduction at the beginning of the show. But yeah, we'll add that in. Where do you see your storm chasing going? What do you want to do next? Is it just keep looking for things occurring and going off and seeing what you can capture?
I may be in a phase similar to you were when you were leaving your tech job and moving into things full time. I haven't exactly figured out what I'd like to do. In these days, I think I heard you say everybody's a good photographer. Everybody has good gear.
Yeah.
It feels that way. And that's certainly the case in the Stormchaser community. I would love to drive around and chase storms and do that. But realistically, I think it'll be a hobby and a labor of love that like photography. And I can do two things I enjoy together as much as possible. And I do them from my backyard more than anywhere else. There's things happen overhead all the time. Yeah. And I can travel to other places and do them. So for now, that's where I see it. But those experiences, that's why I came back for the second time. Yeah. I was on your wildlife tour.
And that was still when there was a little bit of rusty edges on the tour at that point, but
it was great.
Yeah, I think it was probably still good enough that if people wanted to come back, and a lot of people from those early tours did continue to come back. So, but it's been great. I don't want to necessarily wind up, but it has been great traveling with you again, and now sitting here and just I'm starting to get a slight glow from the sake that you brought into the room. Was there anything that you'd like to add? Maybe point, if people want to get into storm chasing, can you think of like what someone could search for or something?
The first thing is, if you are out and you see storms and you're somewhere and you see a storm chaser, don't follow them. It's very dangerous. There's all sorts of things. People died last early summer. A long line of storm chasers converged and got stuck, created a line of traffic, and the tornado unexpectedly came down and took the life of a chaser.
Oh dear.
And these things happen randomly. Things are unpredictable even with all the training. So first thing is to read about it, look at it, and start from a distance, especially if you're into photography. The best photos are not right under or inside of a tornado. They're from a distance, and the clouds are something amazing, but you have to be at a distance to watch them. Yeah. But learn about them and make sure, the training that you can find online, just search for storm chaser training, that sort of thing. I forget the names that I use, but they're very popular, and they're clear storm chaser training videos, and even some tests you can take and retake and get to a level where the basics. You can identify when a tornado is about to happen, when it's unlikely to happen, and what shapes and patterns create tornadoes. And that's really important before you go anywhere near. Otherwise, if you hear a tornado warning, you should just go to the lowest floor possible and away from windows and worry about chasing next time.
So you said earlier about you're watching the storm from a distance. How, if you can put this into words, how would someone easily know in time to be able to get away if necessary, if the storm is going to come your way? I mean, obviously you could see it to a degree, but I would imagine, especially in the early days, you'd want more of a warning. What sort of tools do you use?
So, in the U.S., which is the only area I'm familiar with in storm technology and warnings, they have the Storm Prediction Center, which has a whole bunch of criteria. And most people who live in the regions that get frequent tornadoes are aware of what watches and warnings mean. And I think a lot of average citizens these days have radar applications on their phones and kind of keep track. But what usually happens is things that are unexpected. And so you could have an area where you have a tornado watch or warning, and then a tornado might touch down right outside of where that area, the zone of the warning is. And So it's really staying alert and erring on the side of caution, because it is a common cause of property damage and loss of life in the U.S. So
Wow.
I think as a photographer, it's staying out of the path. So definitely get the radar apps, definitely do the training, and it's not that different. I think hikers and photographers, when they're going up the mountains and they hear thunder and lightning in the distance, you really have to somehow figure out where that storm is going and avoid getting in the path of the lightning. And the same applies to any other severe weather, winds and hail, those things. If you're out in a flat land somewhere and no place to hide, and you get hit by 6-inch hail, that's not going to be good.
No, I can't imagine it would be.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess if anyone listens to this that is interested, well, I'll try and put a few links in. If you could, maybe send me some to stick into the blog post. But it's a fascinating discussion. I look forward to keeping my eye on what you do.
You should come out and visit me.
I would love to.
And I live near a valley where I can take you for some early morning shots, and then we can maybe jump on a plane and go to Oklahoma and have some fun and some good food and nice people.
That sounds great. I would love to. I would absolutely love to.
Your tours are in the winter, so you've got time in the spring, right?
Yeah,
so that'd be great.
Wonderful. I'll have to try and sort that one out.
Yeah.
So David, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for coming back 15 years after your first tour. Thanks for coming back to Japan and just enabling us to meet again, because it's always been
far exceeded my expectations. Even though I did the wildlife tour, it was 15 years ago, so I couldn't remember everything. And I just remembered I got great shots that I was really happy with. This tour from day one, really, where we had the snowfall, the waterfall from the bridge, and the mountain snowfall, and the simplicity of just a tree in heavy snow on a hill with the light that you only see when it's snowing heavily in a very cold climate. It's just beautiful. All the way to traveling on the water, the boats. I wasn't sure how I'd feel about photographing boats on a beach, right? Turns out the boat graveyard is one of the most. Those are some of the best photos I've ever taken.
That place is very special.
Yeah, and so it's really. I talked about magical experiences, and we haven't even really had time to think about it, right? We're always out shooting. We're coming up with new ideas. We're having a good time. Great food. It's been a blast. So I may come back again.
Well, that would be great.
Yeah.
Hopefully, the over tourism doesn't stop me from doing the first 2 tours for a number of years yet. I'd like to get at least another 7 or 8 years out of it.
I can see that with some of the wildlife places, but Hokkaido is a big place, so maybe we just.
I think this tour is probably going to be fine. The only thing that I worry about is, some of the neighbouring countries don't come in small groups. They come in big groups of lots of people, and if they started to turn up at the locations I've sought out, then it might make things a little bit difficult. But
I was just going to say Hokkaido is a big place, so maybe I'll come up and help you. To scout around next March, maybe when there's still a little snow on the ground.
This would be good.
Yeah.
So thank you, David.
Yes.
We'll wrap it up here. If you, like I say, I'll after this I will add an outro. So if you want to go and check links and things, I'll talk about that in a moment. But thank you very much. Give it a It's been
thanks
wonderful.
Again. It's been a great tour, and for anybody listening, if you've always wanted to do the tour but had doubts, I can tell you just come. You'll enjoy it every minute.
Thank you.
Yeah, there is nothing like sitting in a hotel room with an old friend and a glass of sake. And straight after we finished the recording, we looked out of the window and there was a full moon over the Soya Misaki, Cape Soya, and it grabbed the lens quickly. I'm a little bit bunged up. You probably hear me sounding like Barry White. That's mainly because I caught a cold, I think, at the end of the trip or shortly after getting home. So I'm a little bit bunged up. But the links that we mentioned, I will put a post together for this at mbp.ac/845, episode 845. So please go over there and check that out if you are interested in seeing what David supplied, links and stuff like that. I'll also drop in a few of the photos that I mentioned of my own, like the first one that I shot with David's 14mm lens, and my copy of his image, the image that he inspired me to shoot of the cherry blossom light up at Nogawa, or No River. So yeah, I would like to quickly thank you for listening, and I can be found, I've got all of my SNS links and everything is all at the top at the main website on martinbaileyphotography.com. I hope you have a great week or month. It's, I'm going out again in a few days, and I probably won't have a chance to make another podcast before I leave. I will give you an update on the actual photos that we made during the landscape trip, and I will include the comments from the group at the end of the tour, and then I'll go on to give you a roundup of what happened on the wildlife tour, probably within a week or two of getting back from my second trip in a few weeks. So thanks very much for listening. If you'd like to support this podcast, and in many ways support me for the work I've done over the years, because I am winding down a little, but you can find that at Patreon, so mbp.ac/Patreon. Thanks very much. See you again in a few weeks. Bye-bye.